Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we take stacks of complex research, boil them down, and give you the actionable knowledge, basically the shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, I want to kick off with an idea that honestly fundamentally changes how we approach stress. Think about this. Stress resilience isn't some vague quality you either have or don't.
Right.
It's not about just being optimistic or pushing through difficulties. It's really about having a nervous system that's trained, flexible, robust, almost like an athlete trains their body.
Exactly like an athlete. We're shifting the focus today, moving beyond just knowing what emotional intelligence is.
The theory.
The knowing part.
Yeah, the knowing part. And focusing instead on the doing, on building consistent habits. That's what we're calling emotional fitness.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To give you, our listener, a really solid neurobiology-backed guide. How do you actually build that fitness? What are the daily things you can do to regulate your nervous system? Precisely. We're going into the mechanics, the brain and body stuff, but only to pull out the practical strategies, the stuff you can actually use.
The sources we looked at really frame this as a major paradigm shift. Emotional fitness isn't passive. It needs dedicated, regular training, like you have to set up your own mental gym.
A mental gym, I like that. It flips the script from just reacting when stress inevitably hits.
Which is what most of us do.
Towards proactively cultivating strength, building up the system so that sometimes, maybe, stress doesn't even register as a major threat.
And that difference you mentioned earlier, intelligence versus fitness, it's so crucial.
It really is. Emotional intelligence, that's the map. It's the understanding, the theory. But emotional fitness, that's actually walking the path. It's the commitment, the consistent action, the habits that physically change how your body responds.
And the sources are pretty clear, aren't they? Theory without practice just leads to, well, feeling stuck.
Leads to stagnation, frustration, burnout eventually. You know what to do, but your body isn't cooperating because it hasn't been trained.
So the core mechanism we need to engage with, the control center for all this, is the autonomic nervous system, the ANS.
That's the engine room.
If you want real lasting change in how you handle pressure, you have to work with the system, with the actual neurobiology. And today, we're going to show you exactly where the levers are.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover: polyvagal theory, specific tools, the whole 9 yards. So if you're serious about understanding this, about upgrading your own system,
now's the time.
Yeah, please take just a second right now, hit that subscribe button. We go this deep in every single deep dive. And honestly, you don't want to miss becoming the most informed person you know on topics like this.
Okay, let's dive in. Section 1. The neurobiological foundation, understanding the ANS command center. All right, let's start with the big picture, the nervous system. It's the body's command center, right? Communication, control, everything.
Everything. And broadly, you've got the central nervous system, the CNS, that's the brain and spinal cord, the headquarters.
And then the peripheral nervous system, the PNS, which is like the network spreading out everywhere else.
Exactly, the vast network of nerves connecting the CNS to the rest of the body. But for emotional fitness, for stress regulation, we need to zoom in further
to the ANS.
To the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. It's a critical subsystem within the PNS. And here's the key. The ANS regulates all the involuntary stuff, the things you don't consciously control.
Like breathing, heart rate.
Breathing, heart rate, yeah. But also digestion, sleep cycles, your body temperature, and critically for us today, your entire physiological and even psychological response to stress, threat, or perceived danger.
And what I find fascinating, and maybe where the problem starts for modern life, is that the ANS gives a single unified response. It doesn't really differentiate threats that well, does it?
That's a huge insight from the sources. The initial biological response to a looming work deadline can look remarkably similar to the response to, say, a sudden loud noise, or historically, a predator.
So traffic jams, difficult meetings, actual physical threats. The body initially just hits the alarm ball.
Pretty much. It prepares for action, mobilizes resources. Understanding that is the first step, because if you realize your body is reacting physically even to psychological stress, you can start to intervene there. Calm the body, give the thinking brain a chance to come back online.
Okay, so if the ANS is the command center, what are its main operating modes? This is where the accelerator and brake analogy comes in, I think.
That's the classic way to understand its two main branches. First, you have the sympathetic nervous system, the SNS. Think of it as the accelerator.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. Its job is mobilization. It floods the system with adrenaline and cortisol, jacks up your heart rate, shunts blood to your major muscles, tenses everything up, gets you ready to fight the threat or run away from it. essential for survival when the danger is real.
But then there's the break, the recovery system. And honestly, that feels like the part we really need to learn to use more consciously today.
That's the parasympathetic nervous system, the PNS.
Yeah.
The break. Its motto is rest and digest, though it does much more. Its function is absolutely vital for recuperation, conserving energy, optimizing digestion.
Sleep.
Crucially, sleep. The sources emphasize that the deep restorative sleep that truly resets your autonomic balance. That's entirely dependent on the PNS being dominant, being active. It brings the system back to a calm, balanced state. Homeostasis.
Okay, but here's the rub. The problem that leads to so much chronic stress and feeling overwhelmed, our sources really hammer this point. Because of modern life, constant notifications, work pressure, lack of downtime, the SNS accelerator, it gets stuck.
Or at least our foot is constantly hovering over it, if not pressing down. This chronic low-level or sometimes high-level activation creates a state of hyperreactivity.
Hypervigilant.
Yeah, hypervigilance. If you're always slightly mobilized, your system starts scanning for threats everywhere. Minor things, a perceived slight in an email, someone cutting you off in traffic, a bit of constructive criticism, they get interpreted by the body as major dangers.
So you overreact.
You overreact physically and mentally. You're mobilized, anxious, stressed, even when you're objectively safe. Building emotional fitness, therefore, fundamentally requires learning how to consciously engage and strengthen that PNS brake. Train it.
Okay, the accelerator and brake model is useful, but it's a bit simplified. To really understand how our body decides whether to hit the gas, slam the brakes, or maybe even just freeze, we need a more nuanced map.
And that map is Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory, or PVT. This is really the essential framework the sources point to for diagnosing your own physiological state in any given moment.
It's more than just stressed or not stressed.
Exactly. It outlines a hierarchy. 3 distinct survival strategies nested within each other based on evolutionary development. It tells you where you are in the body's defense cascade.
Okay, let's break down those 3 states. Where do we start? The best case scenario.
Let's start with the goal state, the most recently evolved system. Number 1, the ventral vagal state. This corresponds to the newest branch of the vagus nerve, unique to mammals. This is the state of safety and social engagement.
So when you're in this state, what does it feel like?
You feel present, calm, but alert, connected to others. You might feel curious, open, playful. You can learn, digest food easily, collaborate well. Your body feels relaxed but engaged. This is the physiological state we're aiming for with emotional fitness training.
That sounds ideal. But what happens if the environment doesn't feel safe? If those cues of connection are missing?
Then the body shifts down the evolutionary ladder to the next level of defense. Number 2, the sympathetic state, mobilization.
The accelerator we talked about, fight or flight.
Exactly. This is that high energy state. Your body is primed to fight or run. Now, in a healthy, resilient nervous system, this state is temporary. You mobilize, deal with the challenge, then return to ventral vagal safety.
But in daily life?
In daily life, chronic sympathetic activation looks like anxiety, feeling wired or restless, maybe anger or irritability, panic attacks, muscle tension, that constant feeling of being rushed.
Okay. And what if fight or flight isn't possible? Or if the threat feels completely overwhelming and unstable?
Then the system resorts to its oldest, most primitive defense strategy. Number 3, the dorsal vagal state, immobilization and collapse.
Freezing.
It's often called the freeze response or playing possum. It's an involuntary protective shutdown. Heart rate plummets, metabolism slows way down. It's designed to conserve resources or maybe make you less noticeable to a predator.
Life-saving in extreme situations, I guess.
Absolutely. But when this state gets activated chronically by overwhelming life stress, the daily signs are often missed or misdiagnosed.
What do they look like?
Profound exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Brain fog, feeling emotionally numb or disconnected, dissociated. A flat affect. Sometimes it looks like clinical depression. The system is essentially collapsed under the perceived load.
Wow. Okay, so understanding PVT is huge. It means realizing that what might look like laziness or lack of motivation could actually be a deep physiological shutdown, the dorsal vagal state kicking in.
Precisely. It reframes the problem.
So how do we gauge our ability to navigate these states? How do we measure our resilience, our capacity to stay in that optimal ventral vagal state more often?
The key concept here is vagal tone. It revolves around the vagus nerve, which is cranial nerve number 10. Think of it as the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system.
It connects the brainstem to pretty much everything, right?
To the heart, lungs, the gut, major organs involved in relaxation and regulation. Vagal tone is essentially a biological marker. It reflects the health and responsiveness of your vagus nerve, and by extension, your PNS. It's a physiological measure of your resilience.
And this isn't just a feeling, you can actually measure it. You mentioned HRV before.
Yes, vagal tone is typically measured objectively using heart rate variability, or HRV. A lot of fitness trackers measure this now, but people might not grasp why it matters so much.
So explain that connection. Why does higher HRV mean better vagal tone and more resilience?
Okay, HRV measures the natural variation in the time intervals between your heartbeats. Now, paradoxically, more variability is better. A high HRV means your heart rate is flexible, adaptable.
It can speed up and slow down easily.
Exactly. It signals that your nervous system, specifically the interplay between the sympathetic accelerator and parasympathetic brake via the vagus nerve, is responsive. It can quickly react to demands, but also quickly engage the brake to calm down and recover.
So low HRV means?
Low HRV suggests the system is more rigid, stuck in either high gear, chronic stress, or maybe low gear, shutdown. It's slow to adapt, slow to recover. The sources show a clear correlation. Higher vaguely mediated HRV predicts higher resilience scores, faster recovery from stress, and lower risk for things like PTSD and depression.
So fundamentally, all the daily regulation practices we're going to talk about, they're essentially exercises designed to increase vagal tone, to make that system more flexible and robust.
That's exactly it. We're training the vagus nerve, conditioning the system to return to that safe, connected ventral vagal state more quickly and stay there more often.
Okay, so PVT gives us the map of our internal states. But to use that map effectively, we need some foundational skills. The sources really highlight 3 key pillars for practice.
Absolutely. Pillar number 1 is the bedrock, interoception. Simply put, before you can regulate your nervous system, you have to be aware of what state it's actually in.
So tuning into the body's signals.
Exactly. Interoception is often called our sixth sense. It's the perception of the body's internal physiological state.
It's more than just feeling hungry or tired, though.
Much more subtle, yes. It's noticing that slight tightness in your chest that signals rising anxiety, or recognizing a sudden chill as maybe a sympathetic response starting, or feeling that knot in your stomach isn't just indigestion, it's stress manifesting physically.
And the crucial point is, this isn't fixed. You can get better at this.
Absolutely. The sources stress that interoception is a trainable skill.
Yeah.
You can improve it with consistent practice. Things like focused deep breathing, where you really pay attention to the physical sensations, mindfulness meditation, certain types of yoga, guided body scans, where you systematically check in with different body parts.
Okay, so pillar 1 is listening and interoception. Once we're aware of our state, what's next?
Pillar 2 gives us a framework for understanding our current capacity. The window of tolerance, often abbreviated as WOT.
I've heard this term. It's like our optimal zone.
Exactly. The WOT represents the range of physiological and emotional arousal where we function best. When you're inside your window, you can handle challenges, think clearly, learn new things, feel your emotions without being overwhelmed. It's a zone of effective functioning.
But life stress, trauma, chronic pressure, it pushes us out of that window, right?
It does, and there are 2 ways out. If stress pushes you above the window, you enter hyperarousal.
That's the sympathetic overdrive.
Yes, SNS driven. Symptoms include panic, feeling overwhelmed, constant anxiety, maybe angry outbursts, hypervigilance, feeling wired and agitated. If you find yourself here, the immediate need is for interventions that calm and ground the system, bring you back down into the window.
And the other way out, below the window.
That's hyperarousal. This is driven by that dorsal vagal shutdown response we talked about.
The collapse state.
Right. Symptoms here are often less outwardly dramatic, but equally debilitating. Feeling numb, zoned out, disconnected, profound fatigue, maybe flat affect or depressive symptoms. If you're down here, calming isn't the answer. You need interventions that provide safe mobilization and gentle activation to bring energy back online without triggering fear, climbing back up into the window.
So the long-term training goal of emotional fitness isn't just about staying calm all the time.
Not at all. It's about widening your window of tolerance, increasing your capacity to handle more stress, more intense emotions, more complexity, without getting bumped into those defensive hyper or hypo-aroused states, building a bigger range of resilience.
Makes sense. Awareness, interoception, capacity, window of tolerance. What's pillar 3?
Pillar 3 offers a really proactive strategy. It flips the script from constantly scanning for triggers, things that activate our stress response.
Which we're all pretty good at noticing.
We are. Pillar 3 is about intentionally seeking and savoring glimmers.
Glimmers, I like that term. What are they?
Glimmers are the opposite of triggers. They are micro moments, tiny cues in our environment or internal experience that signal safety, connection, ease, or joy. Things that gently nudge our nervous system towards that optimal ventral vagal state.
So give us some examples. What counts as a glimmer?
Oh, they can be tiny. The warmth of a cup of tea in your hands, seeing a particular color you love, the feeling of sunshine on your skin for a moment, hearing a bird sing, a genuine smile from someone, the smell of rain, a comforting texture, even just a calming thought or a pleasant memory resurfacing.
They sound small. How do they make a difference?
It's about the mechanism and accumulation. Our brains have a built-in negativity bias. We're wired to notice threats more easily than safety cues. It helped us survive.
Right. The default is scanning for danger.
Exactly. So cultivating emotional fitness requires consciously overriding that bias. By intentionally noticing, seeking out, and lingering on these glimmers, even for a few seconds, we send repeated signals of safety to our nervous system.
Accumulating evidence that things are okay.
Precisely. It's like weaving a safety net, thread by thread. Each glimmer reinforces the neuroception of safety, helping to downregulate the threat detection system and gently guide us back towards the ventral vagal state. It's a proactive way to nourish your nervous system throughout the day.
Okay, we have the map, PBT, and the foundational skills, interoception, roti, glimmers. Now let's get into the practical stuff. The daily toolkit. These are specific, accessible things you can do to directly influence your nervous system state, right?
Exactly. These are targeted strategies designed to modulate your arousal level, often by directly stimulating the vagus nerve, thereby improving vagal tone over time.
Where do we start? What's the most immediate tool?
Strategy 1, breathwork. It's always available, always with you. And the science here is really solid, linking breathing patterns directly to vagal activity.
So it's not just take a deep breath, there's more to it.
There is. While any conscious deep breathing helps, the real power, according to the sources, lies in the exhale. Controlled, slow breathing is key, but specifically extending the duration of your exhale is what most robustly activates the parasympathetic nervous system via the vagus nerve.
Why the exhale?
When you exhale slowly and fully, it naturally slows your heart rate. This sends a direct signal back to your brainstem, essentially saying, okay, the coast is clear, you can relax now. It engages the brake.
Got it. Is there a specific technique the sources recommend?
Yes. One commonly cited protocol for really conditioning this relaxation response is the 4-7-Dan-8 breath. It's simple but powerful.
How does it work?
You inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Then you hold your breath gently for a count of 7. And then you exhale slowly and completely through your mouth, making a gentle whoosh sound for a count of 8.
So the exhale is twice as long as the inhale.
Exactly. That extended exhale is the key part. The recommendation is to practice this consistently, maybe a few cycles when you wake up, definitely during moments you feel anxiety rising, and perhaps before bed to signal relaxation to your system. It conditions the response over time.
Okay, 4-7-8 breath makes sense. What's next in the toolkit? Strategy 2, vocal toning. This sounds interesting. Humming or chanting, how does that work?
It's surprisingly direct, based on anatomy. The vagus nerve doesn't just go to the heart and gut. It has branches that run right through the muscles in your throat, your larynx, voice box, and near your vocal cords.
Ah.
So when you create deep vibrations in that area through humming a low tone, chanting something like Om, or even just singing loudly in the shower or car, you're essentially giving those vagal nerve endings a gentle massage. You're physically stimulating the nerve.
A mechanical stimulation?
Pretty much. And studies have actually looked at this. Chanting, particularly resonant sounds like Om, has been shown to help deactivate parts of the limbic system, the brain's fear center. It physiologically lowers heart rate, blood pressure, and even cortisol levels. It's a direct route to calm for many people.
Fascinating. Okay, strategy 3 involves temperature, thermal stimulation, specifically cold exposure. This one feels a bit counterintuitive. Isn't cold a stressor?
It is, initially. But strategic, brief cold exposure triggers a very powerful, innate physiological response called the mammalian diving reflex.
The diving reflex, like when seals dive into icy water.
Exactly. Humans have it too. When cold water hits certain parts of your face, especially around the eyes and nose or even the back of the neck, it triggers this reflex. The immediate effect is a rapid activation of the vagus nerve.
And what does that do?
It causes your heart rate to slow down significantly and blood vessels in the periphery to constrict slightly. It's an oxygen-conserving reflex, but the key for us is that strong, immediate vagal activation. It can put the brakes on an escalating stress response very quickly.
Do you need an ice bath for this? Please say no.
Definitely not. The sources emphasize starting small and accessible. Simply splashing your face vigorously with cold water can work wonders. Holding a cold pack or even a bag of frozen peas on your cheeks, temples, or the back of your neck where the vagus is close to the surface.
What about cold showers?
Yeah, even just ending your regular warm shower with 30 seconds to a minute of cold water can be enough to trigger the reflex and, done consistently, help improve your vagal tone over time. Start gradually.
Okay, those are great for general regulation or bringing down moderate stress. But what about when someone is really spiraling, deep in sympathetic hyperarousal, maybe a panic attack?
That's where strategy 4, sensory grounding, comes in. This is an acute intervention designed to interrupt that panic spiral.
How does it interrupt it?
When you're panicking, your focus is usually entirely internal racing thoughts, terrifying physical sensations, the overwhelming feeling of danger. Sensory grounding forcefully shifts your attention outward, away from the internal chaos and onto the external physical environment. It engages your sensory cortex, pulling resources away from the overactive amygdala.
Grounding you in the present moment.
Exactly. The classic technique is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. You deliberately notice and name 5 things you can see right now, 4 things you can feel, touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste.
Systematically going through the senses.
Yes, and the sources suggest using strong sensory input for the touch part if possible, like holding an ice cube until it feels intensely cold, pressing your feet firmly into the floor and noticing the solidness, or maybe tightly gripping the arms of a chair. Even smelling something strong like peppermint oil can help cut through the mental noise.
A powerful interruption technique. Okay, one more strategy. Strategy 5, movement and embodied regulation. We know exercise is good generally, but the sources mentioned a specific type of movement for the other side of dysregulation for hyperarousal, that shutdown state.
Right. When someone is feeling numb, disconnected, maybe dissociated in that dorsal vagal state, gentle, calming movement might not be enough. Sometimes the body needs to feel its own capacity for action and stability to come back online.
Because the shutdown often relates to feeling trapped or immobilized.
That's often the root, yes. So the intervention needs to provide a sense of safe, empowered movement or sturdiness, things that counteract the feeling of collapse.
Like what?
An excellent example given is pushing firmly against the wall with straight arms, feeling the resistance while also grounding your feet and feeling the solid floor beneath you. Really focusing on the sensation of strength and stability in your muscles and bones. Or even just firmly squeezing your own forearms or thighs can help combat feelings of depersonalization, bringing awareness back into the physical body.
So it's about safely completing a mobilizing action, feeling your own physical presence and strength.
Exactly. It helps discharge that immobilized energy in a safe way and encourages the system to climb back up into the window of tolerance towards more engagement.
Okay, we have this fantastic toolkit of acute strategies. But like, hitting the gym, doing one vagal tone exercise once isn't going to build lasting fitness, right?
Absolutely not. Emotional fitness, just like physical fitness, is fundamentally about the long game. It's built through habit, not just occasional heroics. Consistency is the cornerstone.
So even on good days.
Especially on good days. The source material is really clear on this. Emotional fitness is defined by consistent action. Committing to these practices, maybe a few minutes of 4-7-8 breathing daily, consciously looking for glimmers, doing a body scan even when you feel calm or resistant, that's how you strengthen the underlying neural pathways. You're conditioning your nervous system for resilience over time.
And part of that consistency involves routine itself, doesn't it? The sources mention the importance of predictable daily schedules.
Yes, predictability is inherently calming to the nervous system. Think about it. Our brains are constantly scanning the environment for safety and threat. When our basic routines are predictable, like regular wake-up times, consistent meal times, a predictable bedtime routine, it reduces the background noise of uncertainty.
Less for the brain to worry about.
Exactly. It provides an anchor. It helps stabilize your circadian rhythms, which are deeply intertwined with autonomic function. A predictable structure frees up mental and physiological resources, effectively widening your window of tolerance just by reducing unnecessary daily chaos.
Okay, beyond consistency and routine, let's talk about the big lifestyle pillars. The sources emphasize that physiological stability and psychological flexibility are deeply linked. If your body is stressed internally, managing external stress is way harder.
Couldn't agree more. The first pillar, maybe the most critical, is sleep.
We know it's important, but why specifically for autonomic balance?
Because the primary recovery and restoration phase for your nervous system happens during deep sleep. That's when the parasympathetic system really takes over, repairs tissues, consolidates memories, and crucially, rebalances autonomic function after the day's demands. Chronic sleep deprivation basically keeps your sympathetic system dialed up and prevents that vital reset. It erodes your stress capacity day by day.
Pillar number 2, nourishment. This wasn't just about eating healthy food in general, was it? There was a specific focus on blood sugar.
Yes, stabilizing blood sugar is surprisingly critical for nervous system regulation. Why? Because sharp drops in blood sugar hypoglycemia, often caused by skipping meals or eating highly processed, sugary foods can physiologically mimic the symptoms of an anxiety attack.
Really, like sweating, shaking.
Sweating, shaking, heart palpitations, dizziness, feeling irritable or weak. Your body interprets that internal state of low fuel as an emergency, triggering an adrenal response, sympathetic activation.
So you get stressed just from being hungry or eating poorly.
Exactly. It creates internal stress, entirely separate from external events. So eating consistent, balanced meals with protein, healthy fats, and complex carbs helps prevent these internal physiological triggers, keeping your baseline nervous system state much calmer.
And the third pillar, physical exercise. We know it's good for mood, but how does it fit into nervous system regulation specifically?
Exercise is a powerful tool for both preventing and discharging stress. It acts almost like a natural antidepressant and anti-anxiety agent. The recommendation is typically around 2.5 to 5 hours of moderate activity per week.
How does it work on the stress chemicals?
When your sympathetic system gets activated, it releases adrenaline and cortisol to prepare you for fight or flight. But in modern life, we often don't physically complete that action. Exercise provides a healthy outlet. It helps metabolize those stress hormones, literally burning them off. It completes the stress cycle physically, allowing the system to return to baseline more effectively.
Okay, those lifestyle pillars provide the physiological foundation, but we also need to work on the mental side, right? Dedicated psychological training.
Absolutely. Just regulating the body isn't enough if our thought patterns are constantly triggering stress. The first layer here is mindfulness.
Paying attention on purpose.
Paying attention on purpose, non-judgmentally. Formal practices like meditation or informal moments of just noticing your thoughts and feelings without immediately reacting. Mindfulness trains attention, builds awareness, remember interoception, and crucially, creates a little bit of space between a stimulus and your habitual reaction. It weakens the grip of the reactive mind.
Then there's challenging the thoughts themselves.
Yes, that's cognitive restructuring. This is the active process of identifying negative or distorted thought patterns like catastrophizing, black and white thinking, personalization challenging their validity, and consciously working to replace them with more balanced, realistic perspectives. It targets the mental interpretations that fuel the stress response.
And finally, what about just dealing with difficult emotions when they do arise, not trying to fight them?
That's emotional acceptance. This draws a lot from approaches like acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. The idea isn't necessarily to like or want difficult emotions like anxiety, sadness, or anger, but to make space for them.
To allow them without struggling against them?
Exactly. To validate them as normal human experiences rather than suppressing them, judging yourself for having them, or trying desperately to avoid them. Paradoxically, this acceptance often reduces their intensity and duration because you're not adding that layer of secondary distress, the stress about being stressed. It frees up nervous system resources. #6, addressing barriers and chronic risks.
We've laid out a really comprehensive approach. Awareness, tools, lifestyle, mental training. It sounds incredibly hopeful, but we need to inject some realism here. The sources were careful to point out that this isn't always simple, right?
Absolutely. The idea of regulating your nervous system has become quite popular, maybe even oversimplified in some wellness circles. It's crucial to understand potential barriers.
So if someone is diligently trying these techniques, the breathing, the glimmers, the grounding, but they're just not seeing significant shifts or they feel constantly overwhelmed anyway, what might be going on?
It's often not about a lack of effort or willpower. Persistent, severe difficulty with emotional regulation can be rooted in deeper, more complex clinical factors. We're talking about things like the lingering effects of trauma, PTSD or complex PTSD, certain personality disorders, severe anxiety disorders, or even neurodevelopmental conditions like OCD or ADHD, which can significantly impact regulation capacities.
So these aren't just hacks for everyone.
Exactly. These conditions create deeply ingrained, often automatic patterns of nervous system dysregulation. They often require targeted professional treatment strategies tailored to the specific issue, not just general self-help techniques. Self-regulation is the ultimate goal, but sometimes structured therapy is the necessary bridge to get there.
That's a really vital distinction for listeners to hear. Don't beat yourself up if the basic tools aren't enough. There might be more going on. Now let's talk about the stakes. What are the serious risks of chronic dysregulation if it goes unaddressed long-term?
When the nervous system is stuck in overdrive, sympathetic, or shut down dorsal vagal for months or years, it takes a heavy toll. It relentlessly erodes physical and mental resources. Cognitively, we see impacts like difficulty concentrating, memory problems, impaired judgment, increased negativity bias. It literally changes how your brain processes information.
And physically?
Physically, the list is long. Chronic digestive issues like IBS are strongly linked. Persistent muscle tension and pain, severely impaired restorative sleep, leading to systemic fatigue. But perhaps the most profound physical consequence highlighted in the sources is the link to chronic inflammation.
Okay, let's unpack that inflammation link carefully. You mentioned the vagus nerve has an anti-inflammatory role.
Yes, this is incredibly important. The vagus nerve is the primary mediator of what's called the inflammatory reflex. It's basically the body's natural neurological pathway for calming down excessive immune responses. It acts as a brake on inflammation.
So when vagal tone is low due to chronic dysregulation,
that brake doesn't work effectively. The inflammatory reflex is impaired, the body loses its ability to appropriately regulate the immune system, leading to low-grade chronic systemic inflammation, even when there's no obvious infection or injury to fight.
and this isn't just minor background noise, inflammation-wise.
Not at all. This chronic inflammation is now understood to be a major contributing factor to a huge range of serious physical health problems. It's implicated in metabolic issues like insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. It significantly compromises cardiovascular health. Remember, the vagus nerve directly regulates heart rate and influences blood pressure. So impaired vagal function contributes to heart disease risk.
Wow. So practicing these daily regulation techniques isn't just about feeling less stressed.
It's potentially a critical preventative health strategy against major chronic diseases. It's about maintaining the physiological integrity of your body's core regulatory systems. It's a hidden superpower for long-term health.
Okay, so if self-regulation efforts aren't cutting it, perhaps because of those deeper issues we mentioned, what are the gold standard structured therapeutic solutions the sources point to?
For severe, persistent emotional dysregulation, especially patterns involving intense mood swings, impulsivity, or self-harm, dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, is often highlighted as highly effective.
What does DDT do?
DBT is very skills-based. It systematically teaches 4 core modules designed to stabilize the nervous system and build regulation capacity. 1. Mindfulness skills. 2. Distress tolerance skills, how to survive crises without making things worse. 3. Emotional regulation skills, understanding and changing emotions. And 4. Interpersonal effectiveness skills, managing relationships. It's like a structured boot camp for widening the window of tolerance.
And what about cases where the root cause is clearly trauma, where the nervous system is constantly reacting to past threats?
In those cases, trauma-informed care is essential. Trauma fundamentally reorganizes the nervous system towards defense. Standard talk therapy might not be enough, or could even be re-traumatizing.
So what kind of approaches are used?
Specialized therapies are needed. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, is one well-researched example. It uses specific protocols, often involving bilateral stimulation like eye movements, to help the brain process and integrate traumatic memories, so they lose their intense emotional charge. Other approaches might involve specialized cognitive work focused on trauma beliefs, or body-based somatic therapies designed to help release trapped traumatic energy from the nervous system safely. The goal is to help the nervous system learn that the past danger is over and allow it to return to a baseline of safety.
This has been incredibly thorough. We've journeyed from the basic neurobiology of the ANS through the elegant map of polyvagal theory, identified core skills like interoception and using glimmers, explored a practical toolkit, and discussed long-term strategies and potential barriers.
Yet, the overarching message, the synthesis from all these sources is really clear. Emotional fitness isn't magic. It's about consciously, consistently training your autonomic nervous system.
Resilience isn't something you're just born with?
Not primarily. It's built. It's achieved through the cumulative effect of seemingly small, intentional actions repeated over time. Seeking those glimmers, doing that slow exhale breathing, stabilizing sleep, moving your body, noticing your internal state. That's an ongoing practice. A cultivation?
Not an instant fix.
Definitely not an instant cure. It's a journey. It requires patience, self-compassion, and commitment.
So our final thought for you, the listener, as you take all this in, maybe the most provocative takeaway is this. Think about emotional fitness not just as a tool for feeling better mentally, but as possibly your most powerful, accessible strategy for safeguarding your long-term physical health.
By managing chronic stress and boosting your vagal tone, you're directly mitigating the risks associated with chronic inflammation, potentially impacting everything from metabolic health to cardiovascular function. It really is like uncovering a physiological superpower that was there all along, hidden in something as simple as your breath.
And again, if you're consistently struggling with severe dysregulation, if staying within that window of tolerance feels impossible most of the time, please do consider reaching out.
Yeah, prioritize consulting with professionals who specialize in evidence-based approaches like DBT or trauma-informed therapies. Getting the right support can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And if you found this deep dive valuable, if we helped you shortcut your way to understanding this complex topic and gave you tools you can actually use,
Please help us spread the knowledge.
take a moment now to subscribe to the deep dive if you haven't already. Rate the show, leave a review if you can, and definitely share this with friends, family, or colleagues who you think could benefit from building their own resilience.
We appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to exploring another complex topic with you on the next Deep Dive.